Have you ever felt that terrifying moment when life seems to conspire against you, when everything shatters and the very foundation of your existence feels like it's crumbling? It's when a chilling whisper in your mind tells you that you're not strong enough, that this pressure will break you completely. Long ago, the brilliant Niccolò Machiavelli observed something profound about humanity in that exact crucible of despair. A truth so radical, so profoundly counterintuitive, that it forever changed our understanding of mental fortitude. Across countless chronicles of utter devastation, empires dissolving, vast fortunes vaporized, lives utterly fractured, Machiavelli discerned a consistent, almost mystical pattern, a secret mechanism within the human mind, now astonishingly confirmed by modern neuroscience, that only activates during moments of total breakdown. Most people never awaken this power because they spend their lives frantically trying to avoid the break. But for the rare few who grasp this hidden truth, their worst moments aren't just survived. They become the very catalyst for awakening capabilities they never dreamed possible. This, my friends, is what Machiavelli called the forge principle. Your mind, contrary to what society often teaches, isn't designed to avoid being broken. It is forged in the fire of adversity, designed to be reforged into something truly unbreakable. And that precise instant when you believe you can endure no more, that's not the end. That is precisely when the real, alchemical transformation begins. Imagine the year 1513. Francesco Sforza, once a mighty duke, sat in chains, his empire stolen, his army annihilated, his allies either dead or fled. This was the kind of soul-crushing devastation that would permanently shatter most men's spirits. Every prisoner in that bleak Milan dungeon had surrendered to their fate, every one except Sforza. While others wept, raged, or plotted futile escapes, Sforza embarked on an act of defiance that seemed utterly impossible. He began to train his mind like a precision weapon. By flickering candlelight, he devoured philosophy. In the cramped confines of his cell, he pushed his body, growing stronger than before his capture. With methodical precision, he meticulously planned his return, even as his enemies confidently declared him finished. Machiavelli, witnessing this extraordinary phenomenon, realized he was beholding something beyond mere resilience. He saw a man deliberately using his darkest hour, the very abyss of his existence, to forge an internal strength that no external force could ever hope to break. Just 6 months later, Sforza walked free. Within 2 years, he had not only reclaimed his throne, but had utterly dismantled every adversary who had betrayed him. This wasn't achieved through luck or external aid. It was the triumph of a mind tempered in suffering, refined in the flames of defeat, until it became absolutely unbreakable. This, then, is the forge principle. And today, I'm going to reveal exactly how you can train your own mind to become its strongest precisely when life attempts to shatter you. Because what Sforza mastered, and what changes everything, is this profound truth. Your worst moments are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to forge you. Machiavelli's ancient wisdom, startlingly, finds its echo in modern neuroscience. Your brain, in its very design, is engineered to become stronger under pressure, but only if you learn to activate its forge mode instead of its fracture mode. Dr. Martin Seligman's groundbreaking research at the University of Pennsylvania unveils the very pattern Machiavelli observed centuries ago. When confronted with adversity, the human mind stands at a crossroads. It can descend into learned helplessness, or it can ascend into post-traumatic growth. The fundamental difference isn't in what happens to you, but in how you train your mind to process what happens. This led Jung to a revelation about the narcissistic mind that remains profoundly misunderstood. Narcissists don't just desire control, they require to prove their control. The very moment you begin to walk in your truth, embracing genuine independence, you become an existential threat to their meticulously constructed psychological identity. Jung illuminated this through what he termed the narcissistic supply hierarchy. At its most superficial level, narcissists crave attention, admiration, and validation, a need most people recognize. But here's where it truly gets fascinating, where Machiavelli was profoundly ahead of his time. Your brain's stress response isn't merely a survival mechanism, it's an intricate training system. Every devastating moment is your mind's equivalent of lifting incredibly heavy weights. The initial breakdown is temporary, a necessary deconstruction. The strength gained, however, is permanent. When you apply the right mental training during your darkest hours, you don't just endure them, you emerge with capabilities you never possessed before. New neural pathways are sculpted, capable of handling exponentially more pressure. Mental muscles are forged, rendering you unshakable. Yet, this isn't even the most powerful aspect. The most profound transformation occurs within your very sense of self, when you witness your own capacity to rebuild from absolute zero. Your entire identity undergoes a seismic shift, transitioning from a person who can be broken to a person who becomes stronger when broken. Dr. Richard Tedeschi's pioneering research on post-traumatic growth reveals that individuals who intentionally train their minds during crisis don't merely recover to their previous level of functioning. They develop what he terms anti-fragile resilience. They become exponentially stronger, more adaptable, and more capable than they ever were before the trauma. It's like a piece of steel that, after being subjected to intense heat and hammering, emerges as a sword far sharper and more resilient than its original form. Think back to your last significant crisis. Perhaps you lost a job that defined you, endured a heartbreaking breakup, faced a terrifying health scare, or watched a cherished dream collapse into dust. Your natural, primal instinct was likely to resist the pain, to escape it, to desperately try and get back to normal as quickly as possible. But what if I told you that normal was, in fact, your enemy? What if the true goal wasn't to return to the person you were, but to harness the crisis itself to become someone you could never have been without it? This is what Machiavelli termed the transmutation principle, the mental alchemy that transmutes lead into gold, weakness into strength, and breakdown into breakthrough. And in that critical moment, they unleash manufactured vulnerability. But Jung's most disturbing realization was this: narcissists often aren't consciously aware they're doing this. They genuinely experience the crisis they orchestrate. Jung termed this unconscious sabotage. Their very psyche fabricates real problems to maintain psychological control over their supply sources. This means you are not merely contending with a cold, calculating manipulator. You are facing an individual whose unconscious mind is so desperate for control that it will conjure genuine suffering for both of you to thwart your independence. Machiavelli astutely identified 5 specific mental forges that transmute crushing experiences into unbreakable strength. Master these 5 forges, and you will never again fear adversity. In fact, you will learn to hunt it. Forge 1. The Clarity Crucible. Crisis, like an intense purifying flame, burns away all the superficial noise, the distractions, and the illusions, revealing with crystal clarity what truly matters. When everything else is stripped away, you perceive your true priorities with laser precision, often for the very first time. Machiavelli observed that the prince learns his kingdom's true value only when he loses it. Most people squander this invaluable clarity, rushing to rebuild their old life, their old habits, their old comfort zones. Through his extensive research, Jung documented hundreds of instances where individuals believed they had definitively escaped narcissistic control, only to find themselves ensnared once more in the trauma bond within weeks. Jung unequivocally declared this was not a sign of weakness on the victim's part. It was a highly sophisticated psychological trap, invisible to most. Here's how Jung observed the power inversion crisis unfurls, step by step, like a drama of the soul. Forge 2. The Capability Furnace. Extreme situations don't just challenge you, They force you to develop capabilities you never knew you had. When your normal support systems vanish, when the safety nets are gone, you discover internal resources, dormant reserves of power that awaken from within. You learn, often to your astonishment, that you can handle far more than you ever believed possible. Document these discoveries. Keep a capability inventory of every new strength, every new skill, every new facet of your resilience you uncover during crisis. Jung aptly named this dominant surveillance. Their unconscious mind is meticulously assessing whether you remain under their spell, like a hawk circling its quarry. Forge 3. The character kiln. Pressure doesn't just reveal who you are, it refines who you are. Crisis strips away the social masks, the pretenses, and the convenient performances, forcing a terrifying yet ultimately liberating authenticity. You discover which of your values are genuinely yours, forged in your core, and which were merely convenient social performances. This can be profoundly unsettling, as many realize they were living someone else's life, following someone else's script. Crisis grants you the fierce permission to finally become who you actually are, instead of who you thought you should be. Forge 4. The connection crucible. Adversity, like a powerful current, reveals the true strength and depth of your relationships. Fair weather friends, those who only bask in your sunshine, quickly disappear. But true allies, those who stand with you in the storm, will emerge, and your bonds with them will deepen irrevocably. You learn to value quality over quantity in every aspect of life. But here's an even deeper truth. You also discover your profound capacity for self-reliance. You've learned to see through the gaslighting. You're no longer swayed by guilt. You refuse to be pulled into their manufactured emotional chaos. This, paradoxically, is the worst-case scenario for the narcissist's unconscious. Jung realized that when conventional manipulation fails, it ignites what he termed narcissistic desperation, a psychological state where their unconscious will concoct increasingly severe situations to re-establish their crumbling control. Stage 4. The final assessment. The nuclear option. Jung observed that narcissists arrive at a critical crossroads. They must either grudgingly accept the loss of control and seek easier targets, or they deploy what Jung chillingly dubbed the nuclear option, manufactured vulnerability. The vast majority of narcissists choose the latter, for losing a strong individual represents far more than just losing control over one person. You become brave not because you no longer feel fear, but because you have meticulously trained your mind to function effectively with laser focus and strategic intent, even while deeply afraid. Let me illustrate how this forge training radically transforms 3 critical battlefields of life, where most people's minds shatter under pressure. The career devastation. Marcus was a rising executive, his career trajectory seemingly unstoppable until his company imploded in a catastrophic scandal. Overnight, he plummeted from a corner office to the unemployment line. His industry contacts vanished. His carefully built reputation became radioactive. The old Marcus would have panicked, grasped at any available job, desperately trying to salvage his previous status. Instead, he chose forge training. The clarity crucible revealed he'd been climbing the wrong mountain entirely, chasing prestige instead of genuine purpose. I found myself wanting to help others, not for external validation or to be perceived as good, but because their suffering stirred something profound and compassionate within my very core. Jung understood. This authentic, self-driven motivation doesn't feel like traditional motivation in the least. It doesn't push, doesn't drive, doesn't demand. Instead, it calls, it whispers, it extends an open invitation. It feels less like I have to and more like I get to. This is its profound sustainability. It springs from an inner abundance, not from a place of perceived scarcity or lack. Within 2 years, he surpassed his old corporate salary, doing work that resonated with his true values. The crisis didn't destroy his career. It revealed his true calling, a path of deeper meaning and greater impact. The crisis always erupted at the exact moment the victim was at their strongest, most confident, and most unwavering in their newly established boundaries. Jung decoded manufactured vulnerability as operating through three exquisitely precise psychological mechanisms. Mechanism 1. Crisis creation. Targeted crisis manufacturing. Narcissists, often unconsciously, conjure genuine problems within their own lives, specifically when their former targets are thriving. Jung observed them sabotaging their relationships, neglecting their health until it teetered on the brink, making reckless financial decisions, or igniting workplace turmoil. The crucial insight Jung uncovered: these are not random acts of self-destruction. They are unconsciously calculated to engineer situations that exclusively demand the specific type of help only you can provide. If your nature is deeply nurturing, they will craft a scenario crying out for emotional sustenance. If you are a beacon of financial responsibility, they will plunge into monetary chaos. If you are a gifted problem solver, they will create a maelstrom of disarray requiring your organizational prowess. Jung called this targeted crisis manufacturing, an unconscious mastery of creating the precise crisis designed to activate your unique caretaking instincts. 3. The identity fortress. They cultivated such an unshakable and solid sense of self that external criticism, opinions, or judgments simply could not penetrate their core identity. They could hear feedback, even harsh feedback, without ever experiencing it as an indictment of their intrinsic worth or value. When you are feeling strong and successful, a subtle arrogance can creep in, making you more likely to believe you can extend help without risking your own well-being. When your emotional landscape is stable, you become more susceptible to the insidious whisper of guilt for not aiding someone in apparent distress. Jung branded this strength exploitation, a perverse genius in leveraging your psychological strength against your psychological freedom. Mechanism 3. Empathy. Weaponization. Empathy. Hijacking. Jung's most chilling discovery was how manufactured vulnerability specifically targets the empathetic heart. Narcissists instinctively understand that your profound capacity for empathy is simultaneously your greatest gift and your deepest vulnerability. They will present their crisis in a way that makes you feel utterly indispensable, that you are the only person who truly comprehends them, the only one capable of providing solace, the only one who cares enough to make a genuine difference. The immutable truth is that no amount of external accomplishment, however grand, can ever truly fill an internal void. The energy parasite, in this twisted dynamic, becomes your enabler in a subtle form of spiritual bypassing. They provide you with someone to save, so you don't have to face the daunting task of saving yourself. They offer endless drama and external crises, so you don't have to confront your own shadows. They cast you in the role of the noble martyr, so you don't have to step into your rightful role as a sovereign, empowered being. This makes manufactured vulnerability extraordinarily difficult to resist, for their pain is undeniably real, their crisis seemingly legitimate, and your heartfelt desire to help stems from an authentic wellspring of compassion. Jung's warning stands clear and resonant. Just because their crisis is real does not mean your involvement is necessary. Just because they are genuinely suffering does not mean you are responsible for their healing. Manufactured vulnerability thrives by making you feel that refusing to help casts you as the villain. Yet, Jung revealed the profound truth. The opposite is true. Succumbing to manufactured vulnerability makes you complicit in your own psychological undoing, a silent participant in the erosion of your hard-won freedom. However, Jung unveiled a crucial, often overlooked, truth. You cannot simply strip away false purposes, tearing down the old structures without actively nurturing and replacing them with authentic ones. Just as nature abhors a vacuum, the human psyche profoundly abhors meaninglessness. If you do not consciously, intentionally cultivate authentic purpose in the newly cleared space, you will inevitably fall into one of two traps, either relapsing back into the familiar, yet unfulfilling, grip of ego-driven goals, or remaining perpetually paralyzed in a state of aimless purposelessness. Jung articulated this as the empathy paradox. The very psychological qualities that empower you to experience deep love, foster healing, and forge profound connections also render you susceptible to specific forms of manipulation that narcissists have unconsciously mastered. Here's how Jung meticulously observed the empathy trap unfurls, ensnaring the unwary. But Jung's most truly disturbing discovery about emotional impermeability involved what he called projection reversal. His emotionally immune patients had developed an extraordinary ability to see through others' emotional attacks, to pierce the veil of surface aggression and perceive the underlying psychological wounds and unresolved issues driving them. Heinrich once again demonstrated this principle during one of Jung's sessions. "All I ever offered was love, and now look at my desolate state." Or, "Perhaps I simply deserve to suffer in solitude." Jung termed this guilt implantation, skillfully embedding within you a sense of responsibility for problems you did not create and situations you are, in reality, powerless to control. It's a heavy cloak of false accountability draped over your shoulders, the savior complex exploitation. Jung noted that empathetic individuals often possess what he called a healing instinct, an innate, powerful yearning to alleviate the suffering of others. Narcissists masterfully exploit this noble instinct by presenting themselves as an individual who can be saved, but only if you strive hard enough. If you dedicate your energy to their redemption, they'll utter compelling statements like, "You are the only soul who has ever truly understood me. With your unwavering support, I know I can finally transform." Or, "I am, at long last, prepared to heal, but I desperately need your guidance." Jung realized these declarations are precisely calibrated to target your deepest hope, the belief that your compassion can single-handedly catalyze another person's transformation. Yet, Jung's chilling insight reveals that narcissists unconsciously proffer this hope with absolutely no genuine intention of initiating actual change. It is a mirage designed to keep you invested. This discovery was truly disturbing because it meant that the vast majority of human conflict, from petty arguments to international disputes, was fundamentally based on psychological projection. People, Jung realized, weren't truly fighting each other. They were fighting projections of their own unresolved issues, their own unacknowledged shadows, onto each other. Jung documented this pattern repeatedly. "I deeply honor what this motivation once provided, while consciously releasing what no longer genuinely serves my soul." Jung discovered that this conscious, intentional grieving profoundly accelerates the dissolution process, preventing the complex psychological complications that invariably arise when we desperately try to artificially sustain motivations that have already spiritually died. Attacks on your success frequently originate from those frustrated with their own unfulfilled achievements. Judgments about your life choices are often voiced by those grappling with profound doubts about their own decisions. Initially, she dismissed these as whimsical fantasies, given her complete lack of teaching experience. But Jung gently encouraged her to wholeheartedly follow the impulse, without needing to rationally comprehend its logic. Within a mere few months, Maria found herself joyfully volunteering at environmental education programs, feeling more vibrantly alive and deeply fulfilled than she had in years. This profound new motivation was not propelled by conventional career goals or societal expectations. It emanated from what Jung termed soul recognition, a deep knowing of her intrinsic purpose. The truly healthy people in your life will not only respect your boundaries, but will also celebrate your profound growth. They will understand when you need space, they will actively support your healing journey, and they will joyfully reciprocate the emotional energy you invest in the relationship. But here is the most crucial part of all. You must become the kind of person you genuinely want to attract. If you yearn for conscious relationships, you must first become deeply conscious yourself. If you desire reciprocal connections, you must learn the sacred art of receiving as well as giving. The projection reversal technique involves asking 3 diagnostic questions when faced with an attack. 1. What specific quality or aspect are they attacking in me? When you begin the courageous act of protecting your energy and setting sacred boundaries, you are not merely changing relationship dynamics. You are engaging in what we call the war for your soul. This is not metaphorical language. Your very essence, your light, your life force, is quite literally at stake. Energy parasites will deploy every weapon in their unconscious arsenal to maintain access to your light. Guilt. After everything I've shared with you, you're going to abandon me? Let me demonstrate this with a real-world example. Lisa, a talented graphic designer, was devastated when a demanding client called her work completely unprofessional and amateur. Using projection reversal, she asked herself, what are they attacking? My professionalism, my competence. Then, where might they struggle with this? She remembered the client frequently mentioning feeling like an imposter in their own industry, constantly worried about being exposed. Fear. You're being selfish, and you'll end up alone, just like you always feared. Soul motivation feels profoundly, unequivocally different from ego motivation. Most individuals tragically overlook it because they are attuned to the wrong signals, searching for the familiar roar when a gentle whisper is present. Ego motivation is characterized by urgency, a relentless drive, and pervasive anxiety. It carries the weighty burden of, I have to do this, or something terrible will happen. It is relentlessly fueled by fear, a sense of scarcity, or the crushing weight of external pressure. You experience it as a persistent mental pressure in your head and a tightening, constricting tension in your body. In luminous contrast, soul motivation feels calm, magnetic, and utterly inevitable. It carries the joyful, expansive sense of, I get to do this, because it is an expression of who I inherently am. It is fueled by an overflowing wellspring of love, boundless abundance, and pure, authentic expression. You feel its presence in your heart as a radiating warmth, and throughout your body as a vibrant, undeniable aliveness. Jung's final discovery about emotional impermeability was perhaps the most disturbing, and yet the most liberating of all. His patients hadn't merely learned to avoid being triggered, they had developed what he called emotional alchemy, the extraordinary ability to transform every single trigger, every challenge, every perceived negativity into psychological gold. Heinrich explained this ultimate process. Doctor, I no longer see difficult people or challenging situations as problems to avoid. I now see them as profound teachers, bringing me precisely the lessons I need for my deepest growth. In fact, the more someone can trigger me, the more valuable they become to my psychological development. This represented a complete, radical reversal of normal human psychology. Instead of instinctively avoiding triggers, Heinrich actively sought them out as invaluable opportunities for growth. Instead of perceiving difficult people as enemies or burdens, he embraced them as unconscious allies in his profound psychological evolution. Jung realized this was the ultimate stage of emotional impermeability, transforming every external challenge, every friction, every adversity into a powerful catalyst for internal advancement. His emotionally immune patients had learned to harness other people's negativity, their projections, their emotional turbulence as potent fuel for their own psychological evolution. The process Heinrich described was deeply methodical. When triggered, instead of reacting or even just observing passively, he would immediately ask himself a series of profound questions. What is this person truly teaching me about myself right now? Soul motivation is collaborative. It gracefully works with the flow of life circumstances rather than futilely attempting to control or dominate them. Instead of pushing against resistance, It intuitively seeks and finds the path of least resistance, like water finding its way. Soul motivation is mysterious. Often, you won't fully comprehend why you are called to a particular path or impulse until long after you have bravely followed the calling. What unacknowledged shadow aspect are they forcing me to courageously confront and integrate? Comment below if you've ever been called selfish for setting boundaries with energy vampires. Declare it. My energy is sacred. You will discover that you would rather have one authentic reciprocal connection than a dozen draining relationships. You will realize that the quality of presence matters infinitely more than the quantity of people in your life. You will finally understand that your light is far too sacred to be consumed by those who steadfastly refuse to do their own inner work. You possess the innate capacity to become emotionally invulnerable, not through building impenetrable armor, but through the sacred alchemy of transforming every challenge into wisdom. This emotional alchemy involved 3 dynamic transformation processes. 1. Trigger mining. Actively and consciously extracting valuable insights, lessons, and opportunities for growth from every person or situation that disturbs your peace. The golden key is learning to trust those subtle impulses that resonate with well-being in your body, deeply align with your core values, and consistently generate, rather than deplete, your energy, even when these impulses defy the logical frameworks of your rational mind. 3. Strength synthesis. Consciously converting every discovered weakness, every confronted fear, every integrated shadow, into a newly developed, resilient strength. Let me show you this powerful process in action. Marcus, a sales manager, was constantly triggered by his team's apparent laziness and their endless stream of excuses. Instead of merely managing his reaction or frustration, he embraced emotional alchemy. He asked, "What is their seeming laziness teaching me? Perhaps that I expect others to share my intrinsic drive, without truly understanding their unique motivations or struggles. What weakness does this expose in me? My own inability to genuinely inspire, rather than simply demand performance. What strength can I proactively develop?" You can intuitively sense others' authentic emotions versus their performed or projected emotions. You can offer a deeply healing presence without ever taking on others' wounds as your own. You become an anchor, rather than a leaf blown by the wind. Yet, Jung also issued a solemn warning about the potential dark side of emotional alchemy. People who mastered it sometimes became so intensely focused on their own relentless growth and psychological evolution that they risked losing genuine empathy for those still struggling with basic emotional regulation. They could, at times, become psychologically superior, even emotionally distant. Heinrich experienced this subtle shift. "Doctor, sometimes I feel like I'm conducting a psychology experiment rather than simply living a human life. Every interaction becomes a chance to study human nature rather than to truly connect, heart to heart, with another person." Jung realized the ultimate challenge of emotional impermeability wasn't just achieving psychological transcendence, but crucially, maintaining profound humanity throughout the journey. The ultimate goal, he concluded, wasn't to become invulnerable, but to become anti-fragile, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate through every single challenge life presented. As Jung himself so profoundly wrote, "The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life." True immunity, therefore, required embracing both immense strength and profound vulnerability. Some, in their fear, might use this information to justify building impenetrable walls instead of wise, permeable boundaries. They might become cynical about human connection rather than discerning about energetic exchange. They might confuse emotional unavailability with genuine spiritual strength. Do not make this crucial mistake. The ultimate goal is not to stop feeling or caring. The goal is to feel and care consciously, with intention and profound wisdom, rather than being driven by compulsion and unconsciousness. Jung's final warning was an enduring testament. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But becoming who you truly are requires the brave act of releasing who you think you should be for others' comfort. Your light is not a mere resource to be consumed. It is a radiant presence to be embodied. Your empathy is not a service to be tirelessly provided. It is a sacred gift to be shared consciously with discerning love. The world does not need more depleted healers. Initially, his profound immunity did create a certain distance. People found his unshakable calm unsettling, even, at times, threatening. But Jung helped him understand that true emotional immunity encompassed the ability to make others feel safe, understood, and genuinely held in their own emotional experiences. Dr. Heinrich reflected, "I realized my immunity was incomplete if it only protected me. True strength, I discovered, means creating a sacred space for others to feel their emotions, to express their pain without judgment, all while I steadfastly maintain my own unshakable center. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. You cannot solve the problem of energy parasites by trying to heal them from the outside. You can only outgrow your own unconscious need to be needed by them, thereby severing their access. This, Jung discovered, is the profound paradox of ultimate emotional immunity. It requires maintaining your humanity, not transcending it. The compassionate warrior can feel others' pain without suffering with them, can witness others' chaos without becoming chaotic, and can offer genuine support without ever becoming depleted. The technique I developed from Jung's profound observations involves emotional aikido, using the very energy of others' emotions to help them, rather than resisting that energy or absorbing it as your own. When someone brings you anger, you don't fight it. You gently redirect it towards constructive solutions. When someone brings you sadness, you don't succumb to it. You transform it into profound compassion and understanding. When someone brings you fear, you don't shrink from it. You alchemize it into shared wisdom and courage. Heinrich mastered this art so completely that people began actively seeking him out during their worst emotional crises. His mere presence seemed to possess an almost miraculous ability to calm others' inner storms, but he achieved this not through emotional detachment or cold indifference, but through profound emotional mastery, feeling everything, yet being controlled by nothing. Jung's final, poignant notes on Heinrich revealed the ultimate secret of emotional impermeability. He has learned to deeply love others' humanity, with all its beautiful messiness and flaws, while simultaneously remaining utterly untouchable by their chaos. This, Jung believed, is perhaps the highest achievement of human psychology, a profound, paradoxical blend of complete vulnerability and complete invulnerability. The businessman who couldn't be bothered became Jung's greatest, most inspiring case study in the boundless expanse of human psychological potential. Master this profound distinction, and you will never again confuse being drained with being loved, being needed with being truly valued, or being depleted with being genuinely devoted. Jung's warning was clear. They're feeding on your light. But his promise was even clearer. You have the inherent power to stop them. Jung's initially disturbing discovery about people who never get angry ultimately revealed the most exhilarating truth about human nature. We are not passive victims of our emotional reactions. With the right understanding, the right tools, and dedicated practice, anyone can cultivate the psychological immunity that renders others' behavior utterly irrelevant to your sacred inner peace. The magnificent path Heinrich traveled, from the initial confrontation of shadow integration, through the robust construction of boundary fortresses, to the profound transformation of emotional alchemy, and finally, to the noble embodiment of the compassionate warrior, represents the complete, heroic journey of psychological development that Jung believed every single human being possesses the inherent capacity to achieve. Today, you have been introduced to the very psychological techniques that Jung meticulously documented in his most private, groundbreaking case studies. The shadow mirror, which transforms external triggers into powerful internal teachers. The reaction gap, which grants you the profound gift of conscious choice over your automatic responses. The boundary fortress, which courageously protects your sacred psychological space from unwanted intrusions. The projection reversal, which empowers you to see through others' attacks to the deeper truths of their own pain. The emotional alchemy, which miraculously turns every external challenge into a catalyst for profound internal growth. And finally, the compassionate warrior, who embodies the ultimate mastery of maintaining profound humanity while achieving unshakable immunity. Jung's most disturbing discovery wasn't simply that some people never get angry. It was that this extraordinary ability unveils the vast, untapped psychological potential lying dormant, waiting to be awakened within every single human being. The question, therefore, isn't whether you can develop emotional immunity. The profound question is whether you are truly ready to claim this immense psychological power, this birthright that Jung definitively proved belongs to you. Remember Heinrich's final liberating insight. Doctor, I learned that true strength isn't about what can't touch you. It's about what you can touch, what you can engage with, without being fundamentally changed or diminished by it. Your journey to unshakable emotional immunity, to profound inner peace, starts now. Every trigger you encounter is a wise teacher. Every difficult person is a profound mirror. Every challenge is an extraordinary opportunity for psychological alchemy. The only person who can truly disturb your peace is the person you haven't yet fully understood within yourself. Take Jung's initially disturbing discovery and courageously make it your most liberating truth. You possess the inherent power to never be bothered by anyone again. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next dimension of understanding.